Ria had never minded staying late at the office. As a junior architect striving to prove herself, late nights had become part of her routine. She liked the silence, the way the hum of the ceiling lights merged with her thoughts, and how the world outside seemed to forget she existed. But that Thursday night felt different. Everyone had left by 9 p.m. By 11:47, it was just her and the shadows. The office was on the 10th floor of an old commercial building in the heart of the city. Renovated, yes, but still held together with echoes of its past. Some of the other employees joked that it was haunted, especially since no one could explain why the lights on that floor flickered more than anywhere else, or why the elevators sometimes stopped at empty floors. Ria always rolled her eyes at those stories. Until that night. She was finalizing a presentation, a 3D render of a cultural center, when the printer behind her jolted awake and spat out a single sheet of paper. Strange. She hadn't hit print. She walked over, half expecting a jam or an error message. Instead, she found a crisp white sheet with a message scribbled in red ink, as if hurriedly written. "You shouldn't be here." Ria frowned. The writing was jagged, almost childlike, but unfamiliar. She looked around. The office was still. Too still. She tore the paper in half, muttered a nervous laugh, and tossed it into the bin. Probably a prank left behind by one of the interns. Back at her desk, she resumed her work. Minutes passed. Then the lights above her desk dimmed, and flickered, and went out. Just her desk. The rest of the office remained lit. Annoyed now, she stood up, ready to move to another workstation, but as she did, her computer screen went black. Not powered down, just blank. Her reflection stared back at her. Except, it wasn't just her. In the screen's reflection, standing directly behind her, was a figure. Pale. Tall. Faceless. She whipped around, heart in her throat. Nothing. Her breathing was shallow now. The air had grown heavier, like the office was holding its breath. Trying to shake the fear, she grabbed her phone to use the flashlight. The beam was shaky, like her hands. She moved toward the hallway. As she did, the motion sensor lights ahead flickered on. Step. Step. She froze. The lights at the far end of the hallway turned off. Then the ones closer. Then closer still. As if someone, was walking toward her, one light at a time. She backed away slowly, and the lights behind her started turning off too. One by one. Click. 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 Darkness closed in like a mouth, ready to swallow. She turned and ran. The elevator doors were open, as if waiting. But inside, it was pitch black. No lights. No soft elevator music. Just an abyss. Then the whispering began. Low. Uneven. A chorus of breathless voices sang the same thing over and over, in a language she couldn't understand, until they formed into English. Turn it off. She spun toward the stairwell and bolted down, her phone flashlight bouncing with each step. The whispering followed her, growing louder, closer, angrier. By the 5th floor, she started crying. By the 2nd, the lights above her were bursting one by one. She burst through the ground floor door into the lobby. It was silent. Empty. The security guard, always half asleep, was gone. Everything was just as it should be, but the silence felt too perfect. Like a painting of peace, hanging crooked on a wall. Behind her, the elevator dinged. She turned. The doors were open again. And lying on the floor inside, illuminated by a faint red glow, was that same paper. You shouldn't be here. Her phone vibrated in her hand. It was an alert from the security app connected to the office system. Motion detected, 10th floor. The preview image showed the office. And every computer screen was on, displaying the same message. Over and over. Turn off the light. She left the building that night, barefoot and shaken, her heels abandoned somewhere between the 5th and 2nd floors. The next day, she called in sick. She never returned to that job. But every so often, she gets a plain white envelope delivered to her apartment. No return address. No stamp. Inside, a single sheet of paper. The light is still on, and she swears. She can hear whispering behind her when she reads it. It had been 3 months since Anya moved into her new apartment. A cozy studio on the 3rd floor, tucked away in a quiet part of town, where the streets were lined with trees and no one asked too many questions. She liked the solitude. After years of roommates, messes, and late-night arguments, she was finally alone. Her own space. Her own peace. The first few nights were bliss. She'd light candles, make tea, and read on the balcony until the stars came out. No interruptions. No noise. Just her thoughts. But around the 10th night, she began to notice something odd. The cupboard under the sink would be open in the mornings. She was sure she'd closed it. But maybe she'd forgotten. The bathroom light would be on when she came home. She chalked it up to being tired and careless. Then came the footsteps. Soft, deliberate pacing. She lived on the top floor. No one above. At first, they came at midnight. Then 3 a.m. Then, more frequently, she'd press her ear to the wall. Nothing. But the moment she laid back down, they returned closer. Almost above her bed. She asked the landlord about it. "There's no one up there," he said without looking up from his phone. "That flat's been empty for years." She laughed it off. But that night, she wedged a broomstick between the handle and frame of the cupboard, and left all the lights off before bed, just to be sure. By morning, the cupboard was wide open again. The broomstick was snapped in two, and the word "hello" was scratched into the underside of the kitchen table. She froze. She hadn't even told anyone she lived here yet. No visitors. No deliveries. No friends over. She was alone. Or so she thought. She installed a camera the next day, a small motion-activated one she tucked onto a bookshelf, facing the front door and kitchenette. That night, she lay in bed, blanketed in anxiety, waiting. 3:14 a.m. The soft click of the camera activating. She didn't sleep. In the morning, she opened the app and watched the footage with trembling fingers. The camera turned on. Nothing at first. Then, slowly, from the left side of the frame, a figure emerged, crawling from underneath the kitchen sink. Thin. Hair matted. Joints bent unnaturally. Pale skin. It stood up. Stared directly at the camera. Smiled. Then, walked back to the cupboard. And vanished inside it. Anya dropped the phone. She packed a bag and left within minutes. When she returned a week later with the police, the apartment was spotless. No scratch marks. No broken broomstick. No camera. Just one thing was out of place. In the corner of the room, written on the wall in a faint, reddish smear. "Room for one more." Mira didn't believe in ghosts. Not really. She believed in anxiety. In stress. In the tricks your brain plays on you when you haven't slept well. So when the strange feelings started, barely their chills, an odd tightness in her chest, she told herself it was nothing. Just overthinking. After all, she just moved into a new apartment. Alone. Fresh out of a bad relationship, trying to start over. She had work. Friends. A routine. But at night, when the apartment went quiet, she couldn't shake one feeling. She was being watched. Not during the day. Not when she was scrolling on her phone or cooking or folding laundry. But always, always at night. It started small. She'd feel it when brushing her teeth, the sensation that someone was standing just behind her. She'd glance at the mirror. Nothing. Later, she'd be sitting on her couch, the TV flickering in front of her, and she'd feel it again. That creeping sense of attention, the weight of unseen eyes. She'd whip around. Still nothing. But the feeling didn't go away. It got worse. By week 2, she began to notice something stranger. Shadows moving in places where shadows shouldn't be. Just in the periphery. Always at the edge of her vision. A slight shift in the hallway. A flicker near the corner of the ceiling. Too quick to be real, but enough to make her pause. She mentioned it to her best friend on a call. "I think my anxiety's just through the roof lately," Mira said, pacing the kitchen. "I feel like someone's watching me." I know how crazy that sounds. There was a pause. Then her friend said quietly, "That doesn't sound crazy." "What do you mean?" Her friend hesitated. "Do you remember that story from last year? The woman who found out someone had been living in her attic for months? Just watching her?" Mira laughed nervously. "That's not what this is." "Okay," her friend said. "Just trust your gut, alright?" That night, Mira turned on every light in the apartment before bed. It helped. A little. But around 3 a.m., she woke up. Not to a sound. Not to movement. Just the feeling. Like someone was in the room with her. Standing perfectly still in the corner, just watching. Her body refused to move. Her limbs were lead, her breath shallow. Her eyes, fixed on the dark ceiling, caught it, a shape. In the corner. Not her dresser. Not her coat. Something taller. Thinner. She blinked. Gone. She finally shot up, heart racing, and turned on the bedside lamp. The room was empty. Dead silent. Her phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. "You looked right at me this time." The next morning, she ripped apart the apartment. Checked every closet. Every drawer. The crawl space. Behind the fridge. She even opened the attic panel with a broom handle and shined her flashlight inside. Nothing. Still, she couldn't shake it. So she bought cameras. One for each room. Motion activated. Synced to her phone. She felt better that first night. Safer. More in control. Until the next morning. She checked the footage. At 2:47 a.m., the camera in the hallway picked up movement. The footage was off. The angle was tilted, like the camera had been adjusted from inside the frame. Then, a figure appeared. Blurry. Like the lens was smeared. It stood at the end of the hall, facing the camera. Still. Watching. And then, it walked toward the lens. Closer. Closer. Until the screen went black. Mira dropped her phone. The hallway camera was gone. Just missing from the wall. But the others were still there. Still connected. She opened the living room feed. Empty. Then movement. Not in the living room. In her bedroom. The feed showed her, asleep. And slowly, from beneath the bed, a hand began to slide into view.